This is a Q Media production.
Leading and navigating change across a business can be overwhelming. So many leaders are handed a project by their board or CEO, and suddenly they're expected to create the vision, inspire their team, navigate roadblocks, and make some really hard decisions. It can feel like you're swimming in the ocean at night, not knowing which way to go. So how is a leader supposed to know how to drive change? The challenge is, there's no course or dummy's guide to leading change. Until now. This is your crash course in leading change, and I'm your guide, Lauren Ryder. In this podcast, you'll learn from top C-suite and executive leaders who've driven impactful change across their organizations. No matter what project you're leading, maybe it's a sales transformation or a restructure or a digital transformation, either way, the approach to leading change is the same. It all starts with an inspirational leader, and that's you. Welcome to our final episode of Season 1 of the Leading Change podcast. I am so excited for all of you to be here for this. I thought maybe we'd start this episode a little bit different and tell you a little bit about the history about this podcast and how it started. Now, I should let you know that I didn't actually start out to become a podcast host. What happened was I was making marketing videos with my team, and it was just me talking to camera. And I said to them, I think maybe they want to hear some different voices. And they said, well, start a podcast. And me, who jumps into everything feet first, said absolutely yes. Now, the first thing that you need to do when you start a podcast is choose a theme. So what are you going to talk about? Who are you going to interview? And really, that was actually the easiest part. Every time that I would go to client site and work with my clients who were CEOs, CIOs, CFOs, who were charged with leading transformations, generally digital transformations, turns out they were coming to me because they really needed some help. They didn't actually know exactly what their role was. They wanted to know, how can I roll this change out with minimal resistance? What am I supposed to say to people now? How do we run this part of the program? And I thought, these people aren't talking to each other. They're not actually sharing their lessons learned and what they can do to actually roll out a successful project. So I thought that the best kind of podcast is to learn from the people who've done it. They have the battle scars to prove it. I wanted to hear about their successes and their failures, what worked, what didn't work, and so they can share their lessons for everyone else for their benefit. So thus, Leading Change was born. And I have to say, the response has been nothing short of incredible. I think I probably started with pretty low expectations. I thought we would make these episodes, we'd cut out a couple shorts, I'd pop them on LinkedIn, and, suddenly we'd have a little bit of content. But that's not actually what happened. I had people reaching out from all over the world through LinkedIn messages, telling me how much they love the podcast. I have had invitations to speak and run workshops globally. I have had articles published. My favorite story, though, is a woman who came up to me in the lobby of the Ritz-Carlton in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and told me that she recognized me from LinkedIn and the podcast. So pretty cool that that's all happened. But I think the real benefit, though, is that I've actually gotten some learning and some insights about different industries and different projects and different leadership styles that not only I can share with all of you, but I can actually use it myself when I work with my clients going forward. So I'd like to say thank you to all of our guests. Now, this podcast is pitched as the Dummy's Guide to Leading Change. But I suppose if you're going to get there, you have to listen to all the episodes. So what we've decided to do today is create a shortcut. We have put all of the learnings from Season 1 into this episode. So what we're going to do is have two parts. The first one is all of the lessons that are common across the episodes. It turns out there are themes that have come out about challenges with leading change. And so we're going to share those there. And then we're going to dip into each of the episodes and hear about what some of the guests had to say and some of their lessons learned. All right, let's get going. The first lessons that we're going to share are around AI, and it certainly is becoming more prevalent across all industries and organizations. And there are definitely some common themes across the projects. So the first lesson is around strategic implementation. Beyond simply adopting AI, businesses actually have to strategically integrate it into your operations to reap the maximum benefits. And what this involves is identifying areas where AI can drive growth, enhance efficiency, and improve customer service. And on top of that, organizations need to prioritize AI projects based on their potential impact and their feasibility. So that goes into strategic planning. The next lesson we learned was around a 4-step model about implementing AI projects. And basically what we learned is that we actually need to take a structured approach which encompasses strategy, organization, data, and adoption, all with our AI projects. And while this sounds like any other IT project, with AI, what we find is this model is perfectly suited as a roadmap to guide them through the complexities of an AI integration. And what it talks about is the importance of thorough planning, of proper resource allocation, and also effective change management through the implementation process. Because we do know that AI projects have specific people impacts that aren't necessarily found in other standard IT projects. The third learning for AI is around insights for integration into your business. So if you're going to integrate AI into your business processes, it's not just about the technology. It's actually about transforming your organization's mindset and your culture. So what leaders need to do is foster a culture of innovation and continuous learning, which will encourage your employees to embrace AI as a tool for empowerment rather than as a threat to their job security. The other thing that leaders need to do is stay informed about all of the latest trends and strategies in AI, because it's essential for ensuring long-term success as the landscape of enterprise AI is constantly changing and shifting. The second set of lessons that I'd like to share are around change management. And I think the first one I'd like to address is around project failure. This is something that comes up all the time. And really, I think the first thing we need to talk about is the actual definition of project failure. Have we actually failed? Or is project failure not actually an end, but an opportunity to learn and adapt? And so the lessons that we learned are that businesses should really view these setbacks as valuable lessons and use them to refine their strategies and approaches. And maybe they need to tack a little bit differently rather than just throwing their hands up and saying, we failed. The other important thing that we need to know is that the key success metrics actually provide crucial feedback that are going to allow your leaders to course correct and make informed decisions in real time. So really looking at those numbers during the project to understand exactly where we are, because if we don't measure, we won't know exactly where we are and therefore where we need to go and how we need to pivot. The next thing about change management is that it is as much about people as it is about processes and technology. The expertise highlights the importance of effective communications, stakeholder engagement, and empathy in driving successful change initiatives. So what that means is that change leaders have to actually prioritize building trust, fostering collaboration, and addressing resistance to ensure project success. So the difference between change management, where we're actually creating change strategies and helping with messaging and communication and speaking to stakeholders about their challenges and how to pivot the project, that's all what the change manager does. You as a change leader have a very different role, and it really is about engaging your people and engaging your stakeholders really to take down barriers so you can succeed. The next set of lessons are around large-scale transformations. And we had a number of guests on this season who had some massive, massive projects. And some of the key lessons that we learned were around effective communication strategies. So we need to think of communication as the cornerstone of a successful large-scale transformation. So what this means is that you as a leader have to effectively communicate the vision, the objectives, the benefits of transformation. We need to tell each of the stakeholders exactly what they need to know based on their role, their interests, and their priorities. We need to include employees, we need to include customers, and we also need to include shareholders. How do we do that? We do that through clear, transparent communication, which is going to foster your buy-in, your alignment, your commitment. And really, it's essential for overcoming resistance and actually driving change to completion. Leading transformational change can be challenging without a community of like-minded professionals where you can learn and practice the real skills of transformation. I am excited to share that Jez Tile has just launched an incredible online global community of transformation professionals. And let me tell you, it is a game changer. It's called People of Transformation, and it's a deep dive beyond the theories, beyond the frameworks, and straight into actionable excellence. It will allow you to shift from problem seeking to opportunity creation and eventually future shaping. So if you're ready to lead the charge, head to peopleoftransformation.com and use the code LEADINGCHANGE at checkout for your special offer. Founding member spots are limited, so don't miss out on this incredible opportunity. The next lesson we learned about was the future of enterprise technology. And post-AI, we actually have immense potential for innovation and growth. So what do organizations need to do to be able to embrace this? Well, they actually have to look at all the technological advancements and be able to adopt their strategies and operations accordingly. So we need to be a bit agile in our way of thinking, not just how we deliver, but also how we strategize, because the future is actually now. So how do we actually do that? So it involves not only leveraging AI and the other emerging technologies, but also reimagining business models and processes and customer experiences. And what that's going to do is allow us to stay ahead in this rapidly evolving digital landscape. The next lessons are about how a shift in leadership communication is needed. So we know that in today, everything is fast-paced, it's ever-changing. The only constant is change. So in this kind of environment, leaders actually have to adapt their communication styles so they can actively engage and inspire their teams. And inspiration is one of the key drivers with this communication. So this may involve transitioning from a traditional top-down communication to more of a collaborative and transparent approach to communication. So what this means as a leader is that you need to actively listen to your employees, solicit feedback, and actually empower them to contribute to ideas and solutions. So you have to remember it's not your project, it's everyone's project, and we need to have two-way communication in order to make it successful. The next lessons are around crisis management. Now, during tough times, it can be really difficult to motivate teams. And this is the time where effective leadership is absolutely crucial for maintaining team morale and productivity. So the skills that leaders need to demonstrate include empathy, resilience, and optimism while providing clear direction and supporting your teams. And that can be difficult as a leader when you yourself don't know what's around the corner. But by staying stoic, you have a much better chance of taking your teams through difficult times. So if you're able to foster a sense of purpose, of belonging, and solidarity, what you'll find is you'll be able to inspire your team to overcome challenges, and you'll actually emerge stronger together. When we're talking about communicating teams and taking them on a journey, there's a model that we presented, which is a global model. Any change manager would know about it, and it's called the ADKAR model. And what it does is it provides a framework for understanding the stages that an individual goes through change and how effective leadership can take them through any situation, including a crisis. And what leaders can do is actually lean on this model to assess the readiness of their teams for change. They can identify areas of resistance, uncertainty, and it actually allows them to tailor communication and support strategies accordingly. And as I said, it is about individual change. And so what we need to do is address this per team member. And what that does is it allows you to help them build resilience because you meet them where they are. And it'll allow you to navigate these crises way more effectively and be able to lead your team to success. As businesses grow, enterprise change teams are expected to deliver more. But it can be challenging to keep all your company's change planning aligned. Documents get lost or out of date, and executives can't get a clear report on your enterprise change activities. Until now. Change Plan is the incredible connected platform that gives you a powerful, easy-to-use workspace. You'll get all your reporting at a click, an automated front door process, an org chart synced in with your HR system, and the best part, there's portfolio dashboards for leaders. It is the most comprehensive and user-friendly change tool I have seen on the market, and the results speak for themselves. Teams who use Change Plan experience a 30% bump in productivity and up to 50% reduction in change saturation. If you want to see Change Plan in action, head over to changeplan.co/leadingchange to set up an obligation-free demo for your team. All right. So that was the summary of all of the shared lessons learned. But we actually had some really interesting guests on this season. And I thought we'd take out a few of the key lessons that we learned from them. Starting with Anthony Scott. Now, Anthony spoke to us about automation and AI and how it relates to change management. And, his key outtake was that businesses really need to understand the impact of automation so that they can address change management concerns all the way through the project. I think the biggest takeaway in this episode was that we were actually able to dive into the world of automation and understand its true impact on organizations and how change management needs to be integrated in these projects. He did suggest, however, that we proceed with caution, especially when it comes to customer data, until we have technologies like ChatGPT that are actually regulated in the industry. The second podcast was with Tanya Graham, and we spoke about how we can humanize digital transformation. We talked about how change management is part science and part magic, and how we can pull projects together by actually not only looking at a structured approach, but also a humanized approach. So how do we humanize digital transformation? Tanya believes that we can humanize digital transformation by bringing each of our stakeholders on the journey, thinking about what role they have and how we need to address it so it's relevant to them. She says we need to address resistance from boards. And in order to really facilitate change, what we need to do is create some oh shit moments. So if we bring that all together, what we find is that successful change management involves a bit of science and art. Our next episode was with Peter All, and we talked about meaningful change and the community. And Peter spoke about how people are at the heart of every step of every change in change management. Peter had been rolling out a project all the way through the city of Adelaide, and he really had to involve citizens as part of his change management exercise. So really, how do we drive meaningful change when we're talking about community engagement? And some of the tips that he suggested were around using some really quality data management, about having strong leadership, about bringing the citizens in on the journey with them, and having effective team management and prioritizing. The biggest takeout was recognizing the importance of keeping people at the forefront of change initiatives. Our next podcast was with Friska Weria, and we talked about driving change through play. She spoke about her new book, about talking about the future fit organization and how we need to be agile and adopt playful strategies to benefit change management. We talked about addressing difficult C-suites and cultural changes by embracing these playful strategies. We kind of take them off guard, really. We talked about understanding the implications of AI on change management and how to use those approaches to enhance your strategy for better engagement across different organizations and different locations globally. The next episode was a Q&A with yours truly, and I addressed some questions that people have been asking me. And one of the questions that I get all the time was, can a leader be too enthusiastic? And the takeout of this was that, yes, they need to maintain the excitement while managing complex project by keeping excited, by keeping aligned and keeping people on track. But we actually need to kind of curb our enthusiasm to make sure it's authentic. So by ensuring leaders maintain enthusiasm, we can help navigate change management. But we need to know that we need to temper that enthusiasm with some realism, letting the team know that it's not going to be easy and we are going to get through it together, but it should be a fun project nonetheless. Our next guest was Craig Laughlin, and we spoke about managing huge, complex projects. And particularly, we touched on some really big mergers and acquisitions in the banking sector. And really, the biggest takeout we got was that it requires alignment and excitement. There's a lot of complexity that's involved in these projects when we're talking about governance and industry bodies, but also the technology behind it. And so in order to successfully manage these complex projects, he believes we really need to keep teams excited, aligned, and on track. One of the big takeouts was about how to engage all the different stakeholders from all the different groups on a regular basis through different governance activities, but also making sure that every single line of communication is two-way. Our next guest was Simon Pollard, and we talked about navigating transformation and large-scale projects. He had worked in some huge organizations, and he really believed that it's important to curate the right teams and instill values for successful transformation. So how do we do that? We need to work with our teams to instill values. We need to do balanced, strategic decision-making, but also have compassionate leadership. And he spoke a lot about how we actually need to involve and listen to our team members when they have challenges so that we can integrate that into our change planning. Our next guest was Joseph Vijay, and he has worked through some businesses where there was some serious growth. So what he believes is that true growth happens when we embrace our challenges. So he really discussed having a growth mindset and how to drive motivation and innovation by having this growth mindset. And what we find is that when people are interested in learning and wanting to grow, that actually directly translates into business growth. Joseph was a very inspiring guest, and we really enjoyed learning those leadership lessons from him. The next podcast we had was me again, yours truly, talking about leadership in the age of AI. And really what the key message out of that was that when we talk about AI, we're talking about enterprise AI. We're not talking about the generative AI tools that you're using every day, like your ChatGPT or your DALL-E. We're talking about enterprise solutions. And what we need to do when we focus on that is taking it to the business and understanding how we're going to drive growth and efficiency and how we can leverage those tools within your organization. And what that does is it provides growth, it provides efficiency, but it also elevates customer success. And we gave lots of really interesting examples with businesses on how you can integrate AI into your projects effectively. Our next guest was Claudine Ogilvie, and we talked about the future of enterprise technology. Claudine worked in some large global companies driving transformation, but she had to do that in global projects during COVID lockdowns. And One of the biggest takeouts we learned was around effective communication and how that is so important when we have large-scale transformation. And she was saying that communication isn't just with your stakeholders, but we need to communicate effectively with our boards and our stakeholders and our shareholders during these large-scale transformations. Claudine's most interesting takeout was talking about what's happening after AI. And she believes it's quantum computing. So watch this space for the next big tech innovation. Our next guest was Sharon Connolly, and we talked about how to become a change superhero. Her biggest takeout was talking about project failures, but really how we need to use metrics as a crucial measure for success. So we need to be able to go speak to our stakeholders and do some measurement and take some metrics at each stage, but not just metrics, meaningful metrics, things that actually make sense to the business and to the leaders to understand how our project is being effectively rolled out. So we need to not only take that, but then communicate this progress so we can ensure project success. Sharon definitely sprinkled a bit of unicorn dust onto that episode, so suggest you hop on in there if you haven't listened yet. Our last episode of the season was with Philip Finnegan, who is a payments expert of global proportions. And we talked about unlocking the future of payments. We spoke about how change management is a major driver for innovation in the payments industry. And the real key to driving transformation is understanding the complexities of how to execute these transactions and how to leverage change management best to drive these innovations across the sector. He spoke about how we have a lot of older technology in the sector and how we can bring that into modern days. It was an absolutely fascinating discussion. And if you want to learn about the payments industry, make sure to hop back into that episode with Philip. And that brings us to the end of season 1. I hope you have gotten as much out of this season as I have. I hope you have some lessons learned that you've taken that you can take back to your organization and improve what you do every day. I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear what was your favorite episode, what inspired you, and what you want to hear from season 2. Next season's going to have some more incredible guests. We're going to learn some more incredible lessons, and we're going to have a lot of fun on the way. Thanks for tuning in.